Hi, welcome to the Louie File. Today I just wanted to share a little bit about my Christian walk. You know, a lot of people that are Christians can look back on a time when they said a prayer. Perhaps some pastor or preacher or friend or family member, whoever, might have had said a prayer and had you to say a prayer after them. You know, repeat after me type thing. Now, I'm not saying that that they can't be saved that way, and that's not a way that God operates, but my story is a little different than that. In what I mean is no one ever led me in a prayer. When I was 8 or 9 years old, apparently I felt conviction during a church service, and I went to an altar and I said some form of prayer, but I never told anyone, and no one prayed with me, or there was no announcement that I had said this prayer. So you can jump from 8 or 9 years old all the way to about 30. And then at the age of 30 or 31, I found myself at another altar, and I wasn't praying to get saved. I actually had lived a pretty reckless life, and but I'd said that prayer when I was a kid, so when someone asked me, "Are you saved?" I would just say yes. I thought, yeah, I believe in God. I believe there's a God. Oh boy, there's so much more to being saved than that. But you know, the Bible says that the devil, or devils even, believe there's one God, but they tremble. So they're not saved, but they believe there's a God. So this second event, when I was about 30 or 31, when I found myself at this altar, I was not looking for salvation. I was not there thinking I needed to ask God to forgive me, or to come into my heart, or to save me, or any of that. I was there because my wife, at that point, me and her were divorced, and we'd been divorced for 2 years. And at this point, we had been talking some, and I really thought we needed to get back together, and she was not real clear. She didn't feel the same way. She didn't trust me so much, and I didn't give her any reason to trust me, so I don't fault her for that. But at some point, we found ourselves at this altar, and I was just going to share this with you. Basically, my prayer that night was for God to show her that I meant business, that my life had changed or was changing, or I meant what I was saying. I wasn't lying and deceptive or trying to pull one on her. So basically my prayer was this. I said, God, you have to show her that I mean business. That was pretty much it. Because I had come to the conclusion I couldn't convince her that my life had changed. I couldn't convince her of anything. She was hanging around, and we were associating with each other and doing things together, but she was keeping me at arm's length because she didn't want to be hurt again, and she didn't really trust me. So I got it from the altar that night, and I went back home, and she went to her apartment. Well, my life dramatically changed on the way home that night, and I had an encounter with God that I'll never forget. I was born again in my car on my way back to my house, and I haven't been the same since. But what I want you to notice is my prayer that actually got through to God and was a sincere and open heart, and it was really just me coming to the place where I saw and understood and admitted that I couldn't do it. And I said, God, you have to do it. You have to show her. So essentially, I think that, you know, in the book of Revelation, Jesus said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. He said, if any man opens the door, I will come into him and sup with him, and he with me. So basically, God is anxiously awaiting to enter into our lives. But there's one thing he won't do, and he won't cross the threshold of our will without our opening it to him. He just won't. As long as we're kicking and we still think we can make this life work without him, then he keeps letting us do it. He is ever so patient. So I was transformed that night because I gave over the reins to God, and I haven't been the same since. Well, I smoked cigarettes. Now, prior to this, of course, it was drugs and alcohol, lots of things, but At this point I was smoking cigarettes. I wasn't drinking or doing drugs, but I was doing the cigarettes. So for about 5 or 6 years, I mean, and I didn't really think much of it at first. But there came a point in time when I wanted to stop smoking cigarettes. And mainly, just to be really honest with you, it was more about the money than anything else. I didn't necessarily sense God was telling me you need to quit because it's sinful or even health-wise. I mean, all that's part of it, but really it came down to just the simple math. And I started to realize how much money I was spending on cigarettes every day and every year, and how much of that money could be used for something more sensible. So I decided I was going to quit. I remember sitting on our back steps, smoked the last cigarette, and me and my wife went inside, sat on the bed, and prayed. And I basically prayed a very similar prayer as when I got saved, because I came to realize this is what Christianity is. Christianity is Christ living in you and through you, and He's the only one that can live the Christian life. So that night I sat on the bed and I said, God, you and I both know that I can't quit smoking. And I went even further and I said, God, I'll go even one step further and I'll say, I'm not even going to try. So if you don't do this, it's not happening. I know that sounds probably kind of radical to some people, but you know what? God knew already, and I was just being completely honest and open and just telling Him I'm powerless over this. And something about admitting that you're powerless over something, whatever it is, can bring freedom from it. It seems backwards, but you know, the world tells us be strong, willpower. You know, I had someone tell me one time, I don't think human beings have willpower. She said, we have a will, but we don't have any power. And that I've come to believe is the secret. That's the secret, that we in and of ourselves have no power. Human beings were not designed to have power. We were created to be powerless and but to contain the one that has all power. Basically, God is all in all. He is the all and our nothing. So I stopped smoking. I haven't smoked cigarettes since. So if you got something in your life that you just simply can't overcome, maybe you're going about it the wrong way. Maybe you're just trying way too hard. Maybe you need to just get really open and honest and with yourself and with God, and just tell God He's got to do this, and let Him do it. Just let Him do it. Don't fight with Him. Don't contend with Him. Don't compete with Him. Salvation is a work of Christ. It's the finished work of the cross, and all that comes with it, all the deliverance from any kind of sin, hang up, weird trips you got, I mean, whatever you want to call it, issues, people use that word, issues, you know, I mean, whatever you want to call it. I don't even care what you call it. Anything that's got you bound up and covered up in a stronghold, something that's controlling you, ruling over you, God doesn't want that in your life. He just doesn't. He wants you to be free. And the only way it happens is through His Spirit. The Bible says, he whom the Lord sets free is free indeed. So that's what I'd like to see in your life. I just pray that you would be set free today through the power of God's Spirit. Just let Him do what only He can do in your life, and you will be blown away. It's a miracle life we're living. All right, I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.